right. Hi. So I found Mike via YouTube. He showed up in my YouTube feed and I started to engage with his content. And it was very interesting because I'd already started doing my own genealogy on Ancestry.com and was very interested in understanding the background that was a part of the lore of my family and our indigeneity. And so ultimately, I decided to book a consultation because I realized that he actually knew what what he was talking about, and had built that trust. And I'm glad that I did because not only have I learned enough to know that Mike is the person to help me push this forward, right, and help us discover where we come from truly, but I've also learned that more about the history of Indians in this country and how we were reclassified and so forth. But it was definitely a journey of discovery. And so, if you are at all wondering if it's worth it, then I would say yes, go ahead and book the session. It will be worth your while.
Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are live on YouTube. We are live on Instagram. Shout out to everyone that's tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. If you haven't already visited the website nativeblackancestry.com, I urge you to do so. Nativeblackancestry.com is your one-stop shop for Indigenous Black American history. You can even hit me up for a one-on-one consultation if you need assistance with genealogical research. We've got books, courses, digital archive, you name it. But what I'm going to do in this broadcast is something that I do from time to time. This is the Ask a Genealogist segment that I do for my YouTube audience, but we're now going to start doing it over here on Instagram as well. But this is a call-in show where anybody and everybody can call in, hit the Google Voice number. I don't care if you're a naysayer that believes Black Americans are having an identity crisis and there's no such thing as Black Indians, yada, yada, yada. Or maybe you're someone on a journey of discovery and need to pick my brain when it comes to genealogy, tribal benefits, the tribal citizenship application process, anything in between. Whether you're a friend or foe, I urge you to call in. I especially love the smoke. I love to hear from you Africans over in Europe trying to call in and tell us that we really come from Africa and, we need to get back to the motherland as you flee your motherland. We get Mexicans that call in all the time claiming that they're the real Native Americans, forgetting the fact that they speak Spanish because their ancestors came from Spain, which is in Europe. But hey, guys, we get all different types of personalities that call in. We even get those Plains natives, those Siberian immigrants. Oh no, I'm a Navajo. You're not Indian. What the hell does a Navajo? Starving in the desert, roaming with the buffalo. What does a Navajo know about the indigenous kingdoms of the Southeast? Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, Virginia. I mean, guys, we get such crazy people that want to call in and try to dictate heritage to us. When I do these broadcasts, this is their golden opportunity to give it a good old college try, if you will. Before we get any new live callers, hold off on just a moment. I'm going to open up the phone lines in a few minutes. But I've got several people that have called during previous broadcasts. I need to do a few callbacks, and then we'll try to take some new live callers. If anybody ever calls in and you don't get an answer, just send a text with your name, the reason that you called. And next time I do a broadcast like this, I promise I will get back to you. Now, before we start making calls, I want to make sure that my YouTube and Instagram audience can hear the audio okay. I'm gonna play a little snippet of a song. Give me some fists or feathers in the chat if you guys are able to hear this audio.
Yeah, fucking do twins. I told her Skinny was in, so she took out all the ass.
Let me know, guys. Did you hear that little snippet? Did you hear some music playing? I got to make sure when people call the Google Voice number, the Instagram hears it as well as the YouTube audience. Give me some quick feedback, guys. I beg of thee. Give me some feedback. We got some early birds over in the YouTube chat already. Nice to see you guys tuning in. Several people tuned in on Instagram. It looks like I already got my first caller lined up that we're going to give a call back to. I hope this person answers. Oh, Lord, I hope this person answers. This person was sending me a bunch of text messages back to back, multiple days in a row, talking about, you ain't no Native American. You're scared to talk to me. Damn. But I give them a call back real quick, live. I wonder if they're going to answer the call. I wonder. But guys, let's go ahead and make this call back. Give me just a second. Let's see if we got this this naysayer picking up or not. Let's see. Here we go.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail.
Damn. Blowing me up talking cash money shit. But when I call them back, crickets, y'all. Crickets. Come on. Don't be scared, y'all. I don't bite. This next person, this is a Mary, 531 area code. Mary looks like she has some questions about the genealogy consultations I provide. Let's give Mary a call back real quick. If anybody's new to the broadcast, right now I'm doing some callbacks for people who've called during previous live call-in shows. I'll let you know when I'm done with the callbacks, and then you can call the number listed below, 404-351-4721. Maybe you agree with the prompt. Maybe you disagree with the prompt. 5D over on Instagram says, call me back, LOL. I've been waiting a couple days. Well, 5D, let me know. What's your area code? I probably got you on the list already for a callback. I got like about a dozen people right here who've called over the last few days that I have to call back. But let me know your area code. And who knows, we may be able to put you to the top of the list real quick. Let me know. Now, while we wait for 5D to give me that area code, let's see who we got next. Did we just call back Mary? Did we just call 561 area code? Is that Mary? No, that's not. Here we go. Let's give Mary a call back real quick.
Hello.
Hey, this is Mike with Native Black Ancestry, giving you a call back.
Hi.
Hi, let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
I'm calling from Omaha, Nebraska. I wanted to set up a consultation with you. When I listened to your videos, I heard I thought that you said it was $15 for the consultation, but when I went into the website, it said $225. So can you tell me exactly how much it costs for the consultation?
You were breaking up a little bit. Did you say that you were under the impression that the consultation was $15?
That's what I thought. Maybe I must have misheard something.
Oh yeah,
but
no. What you probably got it mixed up with is the digital archive. I've got a digital archive on my website that's $15 to unlock. Gives you access to over 800 documents, family photos, newspaper clippings, ex-Indigenous slave interviews, a wealth of information. As far as booking a genealogy consultation, the prices that you saw on the consultation page are accurate. But for people who call in like yourself, I always tell you, when you book the session, use the coupon code TikTok. That's one word, all lowercase, and that's actually going to hook you up with a 20% discount on your consultation.
Okay, because I was talking to my aunt about it, and we actually wanted to set up a consultation with you, but she want to be on the line as well.
Oh yeah, that's not a problem at all. The consultations are held virtually, and I don't charge any extra amount to have you, have family members or friends join in the discussion. So, by all means, sometimes I'm consulting with a mother and a daughter and an uncle all on the line at the same time. So if anybody's interested in this kind of information, make sure to share the meeting link with them once I provide that to you.
Okay, because we already did the genealogy, and we are actually been going to court for a long time over some land we have in Texas. And
Nice.
if you can help us out with that too, my aunt wanted to talk to you about that.
Mm-hmm.
See if you knew anybody that can help us with getting that land back, because we have paid for lawyers and lawyers, and with no,
Yeah.
nothing happening.
I hear you. Yeah, no, that's something that we can definitely discuss in detail during that genealogy consultation. But yes, I do help folks who find land patents, land allotments. They're trying to research the land, see who currently holds the title. Is there any way to get the land back in the family? That kind of thing. So I can definitely walk you through that process.
Talking to my aunt, she said they don't want the land. We just want the equity and the mineral rights, because there's oil on the land.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this is why we've been having a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, especially out there in Texas. I mean, your story reminds me of a client I had last year. We did their genealogy, and we found that even though they thought that their family was from Detroit, what happened was their family was really from Texas, had a bunch of land in Texas that was rich with oil. The Ku Klux Klan came out and terrorized them off the land, so they migrated to Detroit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know,
exactly what happened with my family.
Yep. And we looked up what's going on with that land. They got Exxon oil over there, drilling millions of dollars every month out of their family's property.
Okay, exactly. That's exactly what happened with my family as well. They ran my great-grandparents. My grandma was a baby when this happened. They ran them off their property because they tried to kill the whole family, and they had to run out into a cornfield and hide in the cornfield, to keep them from getting killed. Good thing my great-grandfather, I listened to the deposition from my grandma's sister about what happened. And, they was going to kill the whole entire family. They never went back to the land because these people came with guns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's a whole lot happened. I have to set the consultation up with my aunt, and we can do that.
Yeah, and when you go to book that consultation, not only will you have access to a calendar where you can pick a day and time that works for you, but there are a couple add-ons that you can elect to have during the consultation. For example, there's an add-on where you can pay a little extra to get the session recorded. That way you don't have to worry about taking notes. I'll be sending you the full discussion in a video file that you can share with any family members that may not be able to be on the call with us live. And there's also another add-on where you can get an extra Indigenous history lesson. That takes the meeting from being 1 hour to about 2.5 hours. And I give you a full breakdown so that you understand the historical context of the times that our ancestors were living through as far as colonization is concerned. But yeah, whenever the time's right, feel free to book that consultation through nativeblackancestry.com and use that coupon code TikTok, one word, all lowercase, and that's going to hook you up with 20% off.
Okay, because I sure listened to your videos, and I had let her know about you when I went to go visit her in Florida last month.
Nice.
We were talking about all this. So my name is Mary Knight, and I'm gonna get back with you. You gonna remember me when I talk to you?
Oh yeah, I'll remember you, Mary Knight. I look forward to connecting with you.
I appreciate you calling me back.
Oh yeah, I tell folks all the time, as long as you send a text message, I'll give you a call back. It may not be the same day, but I'll give you a call back eventually.
All right. Okay, well, I'm going to get back with you. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to talk to my aunt, and we'll figure out a day.
Perfect. Well, have a great evening. Talk to you later.
All right. Okay, you have a great evening, too. Let me ask you where you at.
Oh, yeah, I'm over in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Oh, okay, because my grandma was born in Oklahoma in Seminole County.
Oh, nice.
Indian territory.
I just spent the whole last year living in Oklahoma, yep. I'm familiar with
yeah?
the area.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely got a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I look forward to it. You take it
Okay,
easy.
well, you too. I appreciate your call back.
Yep. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Over on Instagram, King Slim says, is this a real live stream? I mean, I don't know how you can pull off a fake live stream. Are there some folks out there doing fake live streams? Guys, this is a real live stream. This is a real call-in number. These are real calls. These are not paid actors. What do you want from me, King? What do you want from me? No, I'm teasing. Who was it again? 5D. 260. Hey, 5D, what I'll do for you, even though right now I'm doing callbacks and I haven't really opened up the phone line for new callers yet, if you go ahead and give me a call right now, I'll pick up the line for you, since I understand that you've been waiting a couple days. You know, if I see a 260 number calling me right now, I'll definitely give you priority. So let me get caught up with the YouTube chat real quick, and we'll see if 5D has the availability to give me a call. Julius Jordan over on YouTube says, peace to the universe, to the universal family. I appreciate you, bro, Mike, for the info. Hey, I appreciate you for tuning in. Shout out to everybody showing up and showing out, as always. Let's see. 5D, are you going to give me a call real quick? King Slim says, it's looking like a reel and ad. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm new to Instagram. You know, I'm mostly a YouTuber. I've got almost 6,000 subscribers over on YouTube. Over the last couple months, I've just started taking my live streams from YouTube, clipping them up, publishing them over on Instagram, and in a very short amount of time, we're looking at almost 10,000 followers over on the IG. But yeah, no, anytime you see these live streams, they're definitely live. We're not faking the funk. While we wait to see if 5D is going to give me a ring, let me go ahead and do this next callback. Who do we have next? Somebody sent me a text, said they want to have a friendly debate. 845 area code. We're going to give you a call right now. They hit me up on Saturday. Shout out to Cherokee 1TX. There's a TX for Texas. Shout out to Sarniva. Appreciate you. Thanks for the support. Damn, and why is it the ones always texting me talking about they want to debate and they got a disagreement? Why is it always them that never answer the phone? Come on. Let me see. Let's go ahead and give this 503 area code a call back. They said their name is Chief Wildhorse, Comanche Nation of Oklahoma. Let's hear what one of these Siberian migrants got to say, y'all. Let's see.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, this is Mike with Native Black Ancestry giving you a call back.
Hey, Mike, how's it going, brother?
Going good. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Oh, I'm actually out here on the Halapai Nation, helping out doing some fire mitigation for the season, but I'm actually from the Comanche Nation of Oklahoma.
Nice. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the Comanche.
Oh, right on. And what'd you say your nation was? I know I've listened a couple times, but I didn't quite remember.
I'm a citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation.
Oh, you're a Creek boy. Okay, right, John. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Right on. No, it's like just giving you guys. So if you're to look at the Comanches, we're kind of like, I don't know how you explain it. We get made fun of a lot because we're real dark still. You know what I mean? Kiowas, Comanche, and stuff like that. And a lot of like, I guess what would be to the European American person, typical European American person, they would describe a lot of our tribal members as black people because they're, you know, of black culture, you know what I mean? A lot of them from Tulsa and stuff like that, but they're married, you know, they're part of the Comanche tribes, you know what I mean? They're old school blood lineage of the Comanche, you know what I mean? So this is like, I don't know how to explain it. Like old tribes know the truth. Like if you go talk to the old Zunis, you talk to the old Pueblos, you talk to the Numina. The Numina the Comanche come from the Shoshone, but they were part of what they call the Numma Empire. We were part of like 9 different major tribes, you know what I mean? So the darker tribes, meaning you folks, all along from the Caribbean, East Coast, all into the inlands, into Ohio, all the way up to the Mississippi River, were part of the Mississippi Empire. And that Mississippi River, when the Europeans got here, the Mississippi at its smallest point was 10 miles wide. It's a mile wide today, and it's still terrifying to try to get next to it and look at it and whatnot. You know, because you imagine a river being 10 miles wide, that'd be like an ocean trying to pass a high velocity moving ocean. That's why it was such a big deal when they talked about Washington crossing the Delaware. It took him 3 days to cross that river. That's that's how big the waterways were in the Americas. So this is like the original, I would say probably like the original Egyptian lands. I'm out here near actually fighting fire on lands called Allah in Baghdad, and all these different places that are out here in the Southwest are already named after these different places. And I think that the missing link here is that there is a separation of people, lighter skinned people from the northern mountainous areas, the Cascade areas, that didn't have as dark melanin due to the environment. And then as soon as you cross that Mississippi River onto the east side, man, everything got humid, and it would make sense that the darker folk would be living in those areas because the humidity, makes your hair curl. You know, you can handle the heat much heavier. I mean, I think that there was like a certain small slave trade for a period of time, but I think probably what they were running into is that the black folk all along the East Coast, and I'm not black. I mean, if you look at me, you know, I'm dark. You know, I'm a dark guy, but you would see those features that people try to say make us related to Siberian. But the problem is I got both features. I got some black features to me. I got some, you know, almost Asian-esque features would be described, you know what I mean? But my adaptation skills, being able to live in any environment, tip top of a 14,000 mile mountain, or you go over I was a hydrologist for Goddard Flight Center for NASA and research and development for about 5 years over there on the East Coast. So it's just how do you say it? Like, I think that, dare I say this out loud, and I hope that the audience hears me, is that just like the individuals trying to infiltrate Gaza and trying to go in there and trying to separate people, this group of people over here, we're going to genocide you guys, but you guys, we're going to move you over here, and then we're still going to take everything. It's literally the same playbook. And we have to remember Columbus was an actual Jewish person. So this idea of coming in, separating people, making like, okay, you're Mike are separate from this guy over here, Chief Wildhorse, you know, just because you're a different demographic, you're like, you know, only like 500 miles from each other, but Mike's a little bit darker, Chief's not. So Mike, you're going over here to what we're going to call the slave trade, which eventually turned into the ghettos. The ghettos are the reservations for black people, believe it or not. You know what I mean? Like, where you're not allowed to own property. You can live in those areas. You can give away your wealth to government subsidized housing, but you'll never own anything. You'll never be allowed to open a business in that neighborhood. They control, like, the same thing on the reservations. The reservations, they were concentration camps, forced indigenous people onto those lands, but they're still government leased. So they pretty much expect indigenous people to pay monthly rent, would be described as monthly rent, just to stay out there on those desolate lands of the reservations. And they're not allowed to bring infrastructure in unless it's a corporate conglomerate like Burger King, Church's Chicken, you know, just like the liquor stores in the ghettos, you know what I mean? So we've all been kind of played on this game. And I heard the conversation with the Navajo lady that called you and was starting to call you guys pretendians and stuff. And I think that I think what's happening here is that, like, there's one group of people that has always fought to not be erased. And then there's one group of people that they've always been trying to erase. You know what I mean? So both are trying to be erased, It's just on how the white folk are trying to do it. Now I think that there's a Jewish agenda to try to come in here rather than like indigenous black reaching out to the indigenous red and maybe getting some old school clues that they're missing in their avenue of trying to find out who they are. And then the natives have been, meaning like the indigenous on the reservations, have been pressed back into this thing that their word doesn't mean anything. So how could they help out any other culture to find out who they are? And I think that's we have to remember, the one separation between us doesn't even belong here. The idea of the deportation of Caucasians has to be at the tip of the tongue and the frontal lobe idea of every melanated person, whether it's light melanation, dark melanation. We need to remember really what the real enemy is. And I think that that's where we're kind of being separated right now, is that there's not a moment of counsel. There's not a moment of joining. Can you imagine the strength in numbers and the knowledge of power that there could be from just these great powers that are sitting dormant on these American lands coming together rather than just calling, like, it's almost like we're being played against one another by an outside entity that's just sitting back and got their arms crossed and just kind of smirking at the screen, watching it all unfold. And they're still the ones in power. That's like almost like a tactic to keep themselves in power. And so I think that we need to not be afraid to say the words deportation of Caucasians. We need to collectively be able to be brave enough to say those words. I can guarantee you probably never heard those words put together before, spoken so reverently and so proudly, that we think that we're going to be struck down by lightning by speaking up. So I think that that's what we're missing, my brothers, that like, I wish I could get to you guys to like a large black indigenous community. And the first thing that I wish I could show you guys is the sweat lodge. I know it's played out and everybody talks about it, but no, lodge is made for man itself. It doesn't really matter the color. Every human should know how to conduct a sweat lodge, be able to get in there and doctor themselves. It's for doctoring, you know what I mean? Women have a monthly cycle that cleanses their body out. Men do not have that. We have a building of sorts in our, June was Men's Mental Health Month, This is where I started to see that, like, man, the black indigenous are just now like picking up the clues on their own, finding out all this great information about themselves, but they're still missing the really important parts because it's been stolen from them. And that means ceremony. You know what I mean? I think you guys need to be shown some of the old ceremonies that are very powerful. I think that it would help that, I think language revitalization amongst the black indigenous communities, meaning Muskogee language, the Blackfoot language, the Cherokee language, all these different languages, they are available. You don't have to necessarily be a card holding member or anything else like that. They have literature that's out for people to collect. And it would be pretty awesome to start seeing, like yourself, like other Muskogee Indians, start talking their language to one another, greeting each other in that. It's powerful. It's major powerful. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of like some of us Red Indians that have like been forced onto the reservation. I myself have been personally, held down and done bad by a white man when I was, as a child and stuff. I was sold by a priest and a nun to a white family called Mike and Kay Byers of Winfield, Missouri, when I was a kid. And so a lot of that happened where blacks were made as slaves, meaning that they were bought and sold without regard, lost the families, children taken away from parents, to be slaves, to be house slaves, whatever it was be. And then with the indigenous, we weren't worth as much as you guys. We were just like, almost like we were worthless as far as even like workers, So it was forced these Indians into the Red Indians into these residential schools, cut their hair off, change their language, and force them into Christianity. I actually went to a school over called Haskell Indian Nations University, where they keep the old auditorium from the 1800s still standing, so people can go in there and see. And all the chairs, Mike, are like small, like for toddler all the way up to maybe like mid-teen age, and they got chains and shackles built into the chairs for the children. It's so weird to see small shackles made specifically for children, but they would make them wear special boots so they could shackle those to the actual boots, and made all the students, boys and girls, all wear dresses, shave their heads like in Auschwitz, and they would unload those indigenous children on railroad cars right there in Kansas, in Lawrence, Kansas, to that school. And I think that there was black students there too. There was black children there too, darker skinned children. And it's all in the old pictures. So I'm thinking that there's, not only is the knowledge has been stolen from y'all, it's kind of like almost being gatekept, but not by us. You know what I mean? Not by the indigenous on reservations. We're kind of nobodies. We're out there. We're stuck. We're just living day to day. No running water, no electricity, no chance of ever building any infrastructure. You have to leave and go to some place like Flagstaff, or go into Bismarck, North Dakota. You have to go into these places that are literally built to keep indigenous people out of their communities. So it's just a revolving door of not winning, more or less. You know what I mean? And then you got the world telling you, oh, you could just do it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Man, I think the Indian in me wants reservations for white people, but the real Indian in me just wants them to go back and if they want to come to America, come and do it the right way. You know what I mean? Ask permission from if you're going to land on the East Coast, you need to ask permission from the Black indigenous community, all those tribes to have permission to come in the United States. If you're going to come on the West Coast, you're going to have to ask those tribes. That's just the plain simple of it. And I think that would change the power dynamic on these lands if we realize that there might be a lot of white people, but they are not the majority. They are absolutely not, especially on the planet. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to ramble on, but no, I'm bringing, I guess, like you said, an olive branch, because even I've been outcast by other Indians. I went to that school, Haskell, and it was kind of it was a hard time, because I spoke this way. I spoke in unity. I spoke about, as I grew up in St. Louis, the only people that took care of me when those white people kicked me out at 10 years old was the black people. And it was an old black woman, and she had a numerous amount of children and grandchildren. She told me I couldn't live there, but I could stay out in the backyard, by the alleyway, and she told me she couldn't feed me, and that I was going to have to figure it out. She showed me tough love, but she also encouraged me to go to school and get out of the ghetto, get away from there, get out of there where none of them were going to be able to leave. She says, you have the chance to leave, so I want you to go and do that. So, I mean, in my mind, I was raised more right by black folk, and my life was saved by their community than anything else. You know what I mean? So, but I appreciate you letting me talk, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah. I provide a platform for anyone who wants to call in to chop it up. And the olive branch is appreciated, because unfortunately, more often than not, when we do come across Plains natives, whether Comanche, Apache, Navajo, it can be very contentious. Since I'm sure you're aware, the government really runs the educational programs on most of these reservations. So most Indians born and raised on reservations are getting the same exact type of conditioning that white Americans are, as far as black equals African, black equals slave. The real Indians are the lighter skinned ones with the Asiatic features and the straight hair. So oftentimes when we hear from Plains natives, it's definitely in poor taste, to say the least. I mean, sometimes they're the biggest champions promoting this whole, you guys come from African slaves and you're pretendians and yada, 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 yada. And actually, I know earlier you were saying something about, the blacks remain as slaves, the Indians not worth as much. I think you even said that you wish that, white folks had a kind of reservation system and whatnot. And that, maybe the black Indians would have to give them permission. If we actually look into British colonial history, that's exactly how it went. members of my tribe, the Muskogee Creek people, actually traveled to Europe and met with kings and queens and noblemen, brokering charters and agreements to allow them to establish these colonies. And unfortunately, what happens is, even though we have a treaty with the British, for the most part, are honoring it. The British are keeping their colonists off of our land. They even issued something in 1776, I think, called the Royal Proclamation, where the European noblemen, they actually outlawed their colonists from stepping outside of the boundaries of the colonies, because most of these colonies were filled with prostitutes, slaves, European in origin, debt servants, you name it. Yeah, no, exactly. They were basically prison camps. The deplorables were sent there to engage in trade with the indigenous communities, and Britain would benefit from said trade. And actually, you have events such as Bacon's Rebellion, where British men are trying to rally against the king's orders, and they want to go out and start taking these neighboring Indian lands that are oh so fertile, and they want to start capturing some of these Indians as well. And it's actually the British hierarchy that keep them in check for the most part, which is why most people don't realize that's actually the real cause behind the American Revolution. It was never about some taxes on tea. It was about those colonists wanting to break the treaties that the British had with the indigenous populations and start conquering Indian lands. Tea Party, that's why they dressed up as Indians. That's lost on most people. Come on. The British and the Indians got an agreement.
They painted their skin dark.
Let's go ahead and dress up like Indians and throw tea in the harbor. So maybe the British will really think the Indians did it, and we can go steal the Indian land. I mean, looking back on it, hindsight being 2020, it's so juvenile, but you know, living in those colonial times, you can see how people would go for the okie doke. And most of the quote unquote founding fathers were not only slaveholders, but they were actually land surveyors. And land surveyors is just a rosy way of saying they make wealth from stealing indigenous land. So, you know, you've got this cabal of land surveyors such as George Washington who are trying to instigate a rebellion. The average British person in the colonies, they weren't even taxed nearly as much as people in other British territories. They were actually British loyalists, that they didn't have no issue with the crown, but here comes this grassroots move. Kind of imagine like a MAGA movement when they want to go storm the Capitol and stuff. That's the type of economic fervor that led to the American Revolution. And what the American Revolution ends in 1796, I think, and a couple decades later, 1820s, 1830s, we now have them encroaching into the Southeast, taking indigenous people as prisoners of war, enslaving them on their own land. Most people don't realize that when these rich land surveyors and cotton plantation owners from the East Coast came into the Southeast, they weren't chopping down trees and clearing forests and starting plantations. They moved into our homes, they moved into our villages, they converted our farms, oftentimes even destroyed our mound sites and converted them into plantations. So, you know, when you say, well, hey, the Black indigenous people should have like had the white folks on a reservation, that's kind of the system that we did have in agreement with the British until now. I get it. I'm just, you know, taking a walk down memory lane for people who aren't familiar with this version of events, because really the way it went is these white folks did have little reservations called 13 colonies, and the only reason why they stepped outside of those boundaries and started Manifest Destiny and early 1800s starting to come in contact with your people and making their way in the cloth-covered wagons to the Oregon Trail and the California Trail, that's all because they broke away from Britain and became this new entity that we now know as America. But I gotta ask you, are you also under the notion that most Black people descend from slaves? Because I know you said something like, you know, the Blacks remained slaves and the indigenous people weren't worth as much. No. Like that.
There was only a small window of slave trading, you know what I mean? And they put those people into like the breeding, what do you call those, breeding farms, and tried to like make stronger slaves and more like I'll have to say this, like the Black indigenous did not make good slaves. Why? Because you fought, and then they forced you guys into different situations or killed you, plain and simple, wiped your whole lot, wiped thousands out when you fought, you know what I mean? So no. Black skin does not come, in the Americas does not come from slavery. black skin was already here. You know what I mean? It only makes sense. We're on a damn planet with a star. You know what I'm saying? They got to have SPF 80 to stand outside in 2027.
Yep.
So you can't tell me that like there's an advancement of technology when you can't advance to the planet that you're on. I'm sorry. You and I, Mike, if we were slapped around and drug out into the street and then put chains on and put zip ties on our hands and they dropped us in a field, and the only food we were going to have that day, if we worked for it out in that field, you and I could get it done. If we did that same to the Trump fucking sons, you know what I mean? Those Donnie and whatever the boys' names are, you know, the Trump sons. No, first 15, 20 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes into it, 2 hours into it, those guys would be done. You know what I'm saying? They would be done. So
yeah,
what
no,
I'm saying
that's
is
very true. They actually have a history of stealing homeless kids from Europe, from the streets of London, shipping them to the colonies as slaves, and they would die on Virginia tobacco plantations in like less than 2 years. So yeah. Very true that they aren't really cut out for the environment. But no, what I wanted to touch on is that a lot of people have the misconception that most Black Americans descend from people who were enslaved. And as a genealogist, I was even surprised to learn that that's not true at all. You know, a lot of us descend from people who were free before slavery, free during slavery. That's where in like the Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, the East Coast, you see these big demographics and colonial records of what they call free colored persons or free persons of color. And over time, they would reclassify us to mulatto, Creole, Melungeon, Octoroon. And, you know, as we get closer to present day, it always collapses into Negro, Black, and then African American by the time we get to the 1980s. But yeah, there's huge demographics of Black Indigenous people who were not enslaved, who were governors and lawyers, excuse me, not governors, council members, lawyers, prominent individuals. And that's actually why in the late 1800s, early 1900s, we see so many race massacres. I was actually watching a documentary film earlier today about one in, I think, Wilmington, North Carolina, where there was a huge free Black population. 50% of the town was Black. The white folks basically staged a coup, rode around on a wagon with a machine gun, massacred a bunch of people, went to the local courthouse. A couple of the representatives were Black, forced everyone to resign. And next thing you know, they burned the Black-owned newspaper in town, institute their newspaper, and they're writing the history as if there was some wild Black people who started going to engage in a race war with white people. And, you know, they totally contort what happened and, you know, hide the history. And whether we're talking about Redwood or talking about Tulsa, Black Wall Street, I mean, this is something that we see time and time again as far as the persecution of free communities of color, if you will. But something I did want to touch on, I know you were saying something about you guys having a phenotype that's a little bit Asiatic. Although this can be a touchy subject, because from day one, the white man has been trying to use this as an excuse to, you know, force you off your land and disenfranchise you. Do you believe that at one point in time, some of the Plains Indian groups migrated from Asia or Siberia or Russia or something? Or do you believe that a tribe like the Comanche have just always been in, you know, the Texas area, the desert area from day one with no migration?
No, see, where it works is that us being part of what they call the Nema Empire. So we have the Shoshone, the Paiute, the Cree. There's not the Creek, but the Cree, right?
Yeah, CREE, right?
Yep. And they consist of like a bunch. I don't even know how many are even in Canada and stuff like that. But if you look at these guys, it's like I don't know, if you look at some of these Indians, especially if you came to Comanche country, like, and I'll invite you that in September, the Comanche Nation Fair. You're more than welcome, brother. Because like, what I have to get you to understand is that when I finally got to get back to like my family that I was stolen from in Oklahoma, and my sisters, they lived in Tulsa, right? And they're all Black. They're all Black. They don't look like natives that we consider Indians on reservations. You know what I mean? They're Black. You know what I mean? And so, to me, once I started asking them questions and I met what would be their dad, he wasn't my dad, but when he met me, he gave me so many clues as to even who I was and where I came from, because I had no idea who my dad was. You know, of course, I knew who my mom was. And if I was since I have your phone number, I'm going to do an honorable thing. I'm going to send you a picture of me when I was a little boy and then my mom. And your mind's going to be blown. You're going to be like, dang, I think she might be black. You know what I mean? Because you'll see how us Indians, like on the old tribes, what I call old tribes, meaning like Numina. We don't, like the Comanche broke away from the Shoshone because it was told to us that we started being way brutal to our enemies, meaning like the white folk that were trespassing and starting to. So we started mimicking the white folks' ways of war and started just getting really dirty with it. You know what I mean? So we had that reputation of doing that, you know. But if you were to meet us, you'd be like, dang, these are like. So they just interviewed 3 girls.
No,
that were,
and that actually makes a lot of sense because while Plains natives are, you know, in mainstream media portrayed as folks who did head scalping, I found in my research that was actually something that was European. The white man was scalping the Indians and taking them to trading posts and getting money per scalp for bounties and stuff. And then certain tribes adopted that practice.
Yeah. So that what they did was they first started scalping because of the coily hair. The scalp started with the French, and the French started were very proud slave owning people. So they started scalping more or less the tighter coiled hair as because they weren't used to touching it, seeing it, being near it, and they took it as a trophy idea. Somebody said that the walls are painted with Indian scalps in France. That was the big it was the big bragging point. So
the French and the Spanish were definitely both colonial empires that utilized scalps as paying as payouts during intercolonial conflicts like the French and Indian War, or you know, they even used it as a currency system at one point in time. The British, they even in the New England colonies, they had something called Pitt's Proclamation of 1755, and that was in Massachusetts, where they were offering cash rewards for the scalps of Penobscot men, women, and children. Or we even talk about the Dutch, 1641. Governor William Kieft of New Netherland issued the first recorded bounty for indigenous heads and scalps. So, you know, the white folks been doing a whole lot of scalping while making it seem like the Plains Indians was just, you know, killing poor little white babies that was just trying to make it on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, there's a mass grave of Comanche women and children, 63,000 Comanche women and children at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And they called the Comanche out for a war, and the men, of course, stepped up and went, and they circled around and murdered all those women and children.
They even have the gravesite of, was it Geronimo, or who was it? There was a famous Indian.
They got Geronimo there.
Yeah,
they got Quanah Parker there. You know what I mean? They got a numerous amount of like Indian, more or less, warriors that actually brought conflict against the United States, and they don't have them there buried for you and I to go and honor. They have them buried there for trophy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I mean, like it took all the greatest people. So what was the name of the man that rose up and they took his hand, you know what I mean? They took one arm from him, and he was a slave. He's an indigenous man. He was a black indigenous person, and he led the revolt. Educate me. I can't remember his name, but they even made a story about him on the Boondocks. Remember? This was down in I think Mississippi, right?
Boondocks.
Remember they made an episode on the Boondocks about him.
They had an episode about Catcher Freedmen, but he was like a mythological thing.
But I thought there was an actual person that had that role, that did that actually led them individuals, and they killed him.
I think you might
pulled him apart by horses.
I think you might be talking about Nat Turner, maybe. Isn't that Turner?
Is that who I'm talking about?
Okay. Nat Turner definitely had indigenous heritage. He led a rebellion. They ended up, you know, butchering his body, chopping him up, turning him into like purses and furniture and stuff.
Yep, they pulled him apart by horses and then chopped him into pieces. That's the part they leave out. You know what I mean? So it's I'm telling you, man. Like I think that we need to like. What I get frustrated with, and this is just my own observation, and like I said, I consider myself just a reservation person. I'm not anybody, even though I have this background with NASA and stuff, I'm still not anybody. I mean, like I'm not anybody. So, but when you look at this, what I'm getting kind of frustrated with is that we know that Trump is a PSYOP plant put in place to continue on like this last grip hold of white America. Okay, we know this. It's obvious, but it's like the white folk that try to talk as though
I wouldn't even just say Trump. I would say every single person who's ever held the office of president. Right?
I'll say that. Yeah, I'll say that with you. I agree. And what I'm seeing is that there's these people. There's a guy named Hawk, whatever, on does like YouTube shorts, and he's always just pointing at the camera. He's got some big blonde hair, whatever it is. But I hear all these people talk about just because they didn't check a box next to Trump's name, that automatically makes them so self-righteous to just like, yeah, once these MAGA are gone, how we're going to run the country again. And I said, no. White folk need to pump the brakes on how they're going to continue to run this melanated country. Okay, this is what absolutely needs to change. The verbatim needs to change. The talk of like going back. No, nothing is wrong with saying going back. I always say this: if a Mexican can be deported, so can a Caucasian. And everybody's like, how would you deport Caucasians? I would get the help of Canada, Mexico, and any other allied country to help us line up a line of cargo ships. I'll be happy to be the guy that paints the Mayflower 2, the Mayflower 3, the Mayflower 4.
I'm not sure if those are the correct allies. I mean, you said Mexico, they descend from Europeans, the Spanish to be exact. Canada, they descend from British and French colonists as well, right?
When I'm talking about Canada, I'm not talking about the white people in Canada. I'm talking about the indigenous nations of Canada. Yeah,
I got you.
I'm talking about the indigenous nations.
It's about the indigenous nations across the Americas. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The indigenous all the way down to Peru to the tip top of Alaska. You know what I mean? It does not matter.
But if you think about it, I think that's why they have all of the richly melanated indigenous nations across the Americas subjugated heavily to this day. Where are the indigenous in Brazil and South America? They're in the favelas, living hand to mouth. Where are the indigenous in the Caribbean, Haiti, Jamaica, PR? They're living in destitute conditions. So, you know, when you talk about the reservation system or even Black Americans being forced into the ghetto system, I think that's why you see the continuous subjugation of Black indigenous people all across the Americas, because like you said earlier, we are a huge majority. They are an extreme minority. So they got to keep the foot on the neck, or else their livelihood's in jeopardy.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like right now, the Black community, meaning the indigenous Black people of the Americas, right now, they're the reason that they're trying to buddy with y'all is because they know that this next step. The reason they're trying to attack the 14th Amendment is because, dang, our next great war are going to be these Black indigenous. They're waking up. They're realizing they know who they are now, and they're going to absolutely be told as soon as they join up with the Red Indian, we're going to be fucked. I mean, and that's what they're trying to do, is just trying to keep a separation of things. And like I said, this is old Egypt. The Mississippi River, I think, is what they wrote about as the Nile. You know what I mean? When they write about the Great Pyramids, all the Great Pyramids that are anywhere from the Grand Canyon over to Cahokia, Illinois, over in Ohio.
Largest pyramid in the world by volume is in Puebla, Mexico, the Cholula Pyramid. Yeah. Louisiana State University even has burial mounds that are 12,000 years old, predate the pyramids in Egypt. Yeah. I can pull up a newspaper article right now from the early 1900s of them saying that they found Egyptian artifacts in the Arkansas Valley on a Negro's farm in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what I'm saying.
Mummified remains and the whole nine. Yeah. Yeah.
I think what's coming is that they know that the next step is that if the Black indigenous find out the old ancient powers, meaning like the right words to put together for ceremony, the right power systems to be able to place back into place the electric magnetic fields that we used to operate on, once they know that, like, so I just saw that little boy on a YouTube short, a YouTube video last night, and if I could pull it up, if I'll find it again, I'll send you the link, because I thought about you instantly. And so this boy, you can tell that he's going to be beyond like an engineer, like, you know, because I think he's probably like 12. And he says he and his friends were so bored doing whatever, but they came up with their own language called Creekage, right? And so he took ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and I think Japanese language symbols and created a language. And I'm like, that boy is already, will be considered a little black kid, you know what I mean? But I'm like, he's already got something figured out. He hasn't quite put he hasn't touched the tips of the fingers together yet. I was like, he's on it.
Absolutely. Most of the most prominent inventions of the modern era have been procured by Native Black Americans, whether we're talking about traffic lights or the modern ambulance system or the black women that were behind the mathematics and NASA, MRI, gas. It's just so many niche things that Black Americans have a huge role in pioneering. And if we came from West Africa, then why does West Africa not have the same type of innovation?
Have all of it, yep.
I mean, it makes sense.
That's what I think.
But
then wait, the same thing.
Hold on though, real quick. I got to get on to the next caller real quick. Please, if you can find that video, text it over to me. If you ever see me live doing one of these call-in shows, feel free to call in again. But if you have any closing remarks or any last message for the Black Indigenous community across the Americas, you have the floor. We're putting you on the spot. Go for it.
All right. What I would like to offer from myself before my dying days that are coming is that I would love to be able to teach what ceremonies that I have been taught. I don't know how much. I really want to see our Black Indigenous find themselves. And if you were to meet me and see me, you'd be like, well, he's not part of the Black community, but I can see that. Like, I don't know how often you get to hear these sort of words where somebody that's not Black says, like, I love you and I want you guys to find who you are. I think that it's not right that things have been stolen from your communities and things have been kept from mine. But I think probably before I make my journey is that, like, I think a lot of peace and tranquility would be brought to the Black communities if you guys were allowed to have access to these old ceremonies that can help any person. But I think that it's like part of that knowledge that's been stolen from you guys, along with your language. And that's the other part too. I would love for you guys to be able to, like, revitalize your languages, so you guys start actually talking Indigenous languages to one another, rather than using this, what we've all been colonized to use, the most generic of languages on the planet is English, you know what I mean? So, but no, like I said, I love my Black community. I love you folks. It saddens me to see like where, violence happens in all of our communities, especially on the reservations. It's really bad, and it's just never televised. And so I think that it's a parallel. We're living in these parallel worlds, being told that we're completely separate. And I don't think that it's separate. I think that there's, like, the newest people, meaning what I call the discovery people, white people. Everything is a discovery for them because they are simply a photocopy of what your people were. Does that make sense? You can never get it right.
Everything we know as American culture is really centered on Black Indigenous culture and then exported globally. So yeah, even when you talk about modern English, they weren't speaking like this over in England and different parts of Europe. Modern English is a version of old Gaelic English mixed with Indigenous American vernacular, which is why we have so many unique phrases and slang and this and that permeates pop culture to this day. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Well,
but hey, again, it was a pleasure connecting with you. Very refreshing, since every time we speak with the Plains natives these days, it's a little contentious. But yeah, it was nice hearing from you, and don't hesitate to call in the future.
I appreciate you, man. Be safe.
All right, take it easy. Likewise. Peace. All right, y'all. Matter of fact, this might be 5. What was your name? 5D? 5D? I think you said you had a 260 area code. Let me go ahead and give this 260 area code a call back real quick.
Hello?
Hey, this is Mike with Native Black Ancestry. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Can't complain. Are you the brother in the YouTube chat? Or actually on the Instagram chat, right? Instagram. Yeah. Okay,
Instagram.
That's you. Well, let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
So I'm calling in from Indiana. I just like to have educated conversations with like-minded people, man. And I've been catching you on live the last few times, and it's not all the time that people have a place where they can, a safe space to talk about information that they have been blessed with in the last couple years at least, But yeah, one thing that I did want to touch on, a couple things, man. The first thing that was on my mind a couple of days ago was like, it's amazing that we're catching up and understanding now that we are, the native people of this land. But at some point in time, I feel like we got to get a little deeper than just, these nations. Because before these nations, I've been getting into recently about kind of like the idea of the Tartarian nations, even as far back as to what I believe to be like the Atlantis, the nation of Atlantis, which they say was the whole Western hemisphere of the world. So I feel like a lot of that information, eventually they're gonna have to accept the fact that we now know that we are the native of this land. But I feel like they would rather us know that they're getting even deeper and continuing. Like they probably hope that we stay hovered around that information for the next 250 years before we start understanding that it gets even deeper than just these nations. Is one thing, and I kind of wanted to see, your idea about what do you feel like was going on here prior to those nations becoming, nations and becoming what we know as the native Indian today.
Yeah, great question. And yeah, as far as your point about Black folks getting caught on the whole we're Indian thing and not going further, I would have to disagree a bit. I mean, they don't even want us to realize that we don't come from Africa, let alone realize that we're a part of indigenous communities, whether it be the East Coast, Southeast, Caribbean, Central South America. Also, by and large, the average Black American has no idea of what we're talking about. No idea. Right. Yeah, you walk up to any Black American and say, hey, has anybody in your family passed down oral tradition of having indigenous roots? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yeah, grandma said we're Cherokee, we're Choctaw, we're Blackfoot. But as far as this in-depth knowledge that we're discussing, most Black folks have no idea. So, there's definitely stages to it, just like the civil rights era. If you're living in that era, it seems like it's everything. It's the end-all, be-all, et cetera, et cetera. But when you step out of that era, you realize it was just one stepping stone, part of a much larger journey. So, what we're doing right now when we're spreading the gospel, if you will, of our obscured indigenous roots, and when we speak life to paper genocide and racial reclassification, really, this is just step one. And of course, future steps are going to be going further and further back in time and looking into more of the ancient antediluvian, antiquarian history of these indigenous communities. But, I think it'll happen when it's time to happen. We have already made leaps and bounds as far as using social media and artificial intelligence to help spread this messaging and give it half a generation or even a full generation. And I think, this will be much more commonplace. And then many more of our community members will be ready to go further to that real ancient history that you're speaking of. But if you were to ask me what I think was going on, I mean, based on the research that I've obtained, the Americas was never the New World. It was always the Old World. The Europeans lost a way to get over here. They lost the information. And over time, throughout, years and years and years, you get the even Odysseus. I mean, I'm doing research lately. They got the new Odysseus movie coming out. I'm not sure if you guys know the fable, the myth of Odysseus, but when they talk about him being gone for so long and many years, and when you look up, type in Google, where was Odysseus lost at? They want you to think that he was lost in the Mediterranean, that he was lost somewhere in that small ass place we know as the Mediterranean for 10 years. No, when he speaks of land permanently covered in fog, and he speaks of these different geographical markers, they line up perfectly with different land masses in the Americas. You even have the Vikings, Leif Erikson, Eric the Red coming over here and making voyages. You have so many different European excursions, even the Portuguese, way before Cristobal Colon, also known as Christopher Columbus. But, it's clear, anybody who's really done the in-depth research, such as I have, it's clear that there was a ancient, highly advanced civilization that spawned from the Americas that was seafaring and spread their information around the globe. That's why you see different sites, whether it's in Egypt, whether it's Göbekli Tepe, they have the same motifs there. They're showing maize figures. They're showing the hand-eye motifs. They're showing these different things that correlate to the Americas. I mean, why are Egyptian royalty mummified with particles from the coca plants if they didn't have some kind of contact with the Americas? How are there Egyptian hieroglyphs of corn when corn is indigenous to the Americas? So, clearly whatever highly technically advanced civilization was here was seafaring, had a global reach, and that's why you see so many things lining up with these ancient structures all around the world, whether we're talking about India, whether you're talking about Cambodia, whether you're talking about Oceania, the Antilles, whether you're talking about the megalithic heads. I forget the islands. I think they call the Maori Islands, where they're unearthing huge megalithic heads. I mean, America is the epicenter of it all. Which is why, if you notice, everybody who's not from here indigenously, they're obsessed with this place. They will spend all their money to get here. They will risk their life to voyage over here. And when they get over here, they never want to go back home.
We saw that with the World Cup. That kind of made me laugh a little bit, because they were all trained and brainwashed for generations that this place is a savage place with no good food. And I'm glad that you touched on the crops, because a book that I'm reading right now called America is the True Old World, the very first piece of information that shows is that all food that is essential to human life is only native to the Americas. Yes. Which corn was a big one, wheat, even the cannabis plant, the hemp,
tomato, potato, cacao, which is where we get chocolate. I mean, yeah, all of it. And that's why America to this day feeds the world. Our food exports are crazy. Like, there's whole foreign nations who can't survive without the wheat and the rice and the grain that is cultivated over here. I mean, that's why when the British came over and they're establishing these little colonies, they're trying to start growing shit. They're brokering agreements with the Indians to teach them how to farm tobacco, how to cultivate maize, because they don't have access to these type of abundant crops. And that's clear from day one.
And then it's also like, it's crazy because my brother has lived in Africa for the last 14 years, and they're biggest, and he runs an export company as well. And he created one over there, and he's like a very whitewashed individual who sends all of their resources he sends back to the States, which people have been doing that in that region of the world for centuries. But it's crazy because when you ask him what their biggest exports are, most of their exports are also imported from the Americas. So it's crazy that the fact that a lot of those places, their climate is too dry, they don't have the proper soil. Mesoamerica, the Midwest of America, has the greatest soil, the most fruitful and bearing soil in the entire world. That's why it's so expensive for property here. There's nowhere else except for places of tourist destinations that have anywhere close to as much expensive land. Like just outside of Indiana, my friend just bought 200 acres. That shit cost him a good $250,000.
Absolutely.
And it's all because of the fact that they're able to. He's a farmer. He's able to cultivate that area. But I also kind of wanted to talk about your last caller that I caught a little bit of couple things that he said that kind of stuck with me. You know,
You're talking about the Comanche?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So one thing that kind of stuck with me is the fact that the whole idea of them wanting us to awaken so that we can work together with, you know, you call them the Plains natives.
Oh, no, wait, so. We can dead that right here. He is an anomaly. The average Plains native don't talk like that. They making Facebook groups every other day calling us wobbles and pretendians. He had a very, very unique life experience that led him to that conclusion. He even said he was abandoned and taken in by a black family. You know, his unique circumstances is why he's talking the way that he's talking, but his contemporaries are not on code like that. His contemporaries are not trying to kumbaya, extend olive branches, not in the slightest. You know, it was refreshing to hear from someone like that who comes from that heritage, who's, you know, on code, who knows what we're talking about. But he is definitely one in a million.
Yeah, and I love that what he was saying. But my biggest thing is I feel like even something like that couldn't happen until they came to the conclusion and wanted to admit the fact that they worked together with these people, with these Europeans, and then also the modern, or at that point in time, the African people that helped them come over here to take over this land. And I feel like until those people who are involved, especially the Europeans, I don't feel like they will be able to evolve into that next step of, you know, becoming becoming a free-minded individual until they are able to sit down and understand that their ancestors worked together with these people to destroy the civilizations and then to steal the identities of the people that were already here. So I feel like, and that was in his mind. Yes, I definitely enjoyed what he was saying. You know, he, like you said, he's an anomaly, and you know, I could tell he's a beautiful minded person. But at the same time, it's like it's important to understand that in order for us to move forward as an entire race, like we can't, at this point in time, they can't just point fingers at the white man and say, oh, it was them. Because it wasn't just them. There were 7 countries plus the people who were creating treaties. They were creating treaties, and they were incentivized to come over here and given free land and given free plantations and all this stuff that we was manning for thousands of years.
Absolutely. Several different nations colluding against us simultaneously for hundreds of years, and yet here we still are.
Right, exactly. And it's ideal that, you know, some people are taking the initiative to understand their history, but for and large, we're still probably a good 20 to 50 plus years before the majority of people can even begin to fathom the idea that we are the sole people of this entire nation. But also one thing that I do want to
wait, what? You mean to tell me that the people who literally created soul music are the soul of this nation? You don't say. You don't say.
Exactly, man. I was just watching a video today about how the idea of even the music, like the drums, when you hear of a drum, the first thing they want you to do is think of Africa.
Like we already have drums here.
Right. We've been playing music and rhythms since the beginning of time.
I had somebody the other day talking about we wouldn't have rice if it wasn't for African slaves bringing rice with them. Like we already have rice here.
It's a complete opposite. It's a complete other way around. Like it's a complete 180. They definitely, wild rice is native to the Americas. So it's the idea of, and then one thing I know it's a very controversial subject is the idea of Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump, ever since, even in the 1970s, when they got into it about the whole idea of where he wanted to put his casino,
Yeah.
and they were
He
like,
said,
you
them
can
don't
only
look
do it
like
on the
Indians
native.
to me. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, you know what I mean. So like the idea of Donald Trump is just as an anomaly, because there's, in my research, I found 3 European people that have ever, world leaders, you can even say world leaders, that I ever looked up. There's only been 3 of them to acknowledge the so-called African American people as the chosen people, not just of the land, but of God. And that came from Adolf Hitler, that came from Vladimir Putin, and that came from Donald Trump. And those are the 3 most hated people that you will find in any textbook to this day. And it's because of the fact that they are the people who came out and said, and that's why he was just trying to get rid of that birthright citizenship. He was trying to get people to see, like, he knew he wasn't gonna never win that. There was no chance that he was ever gonna win that in the court of law.
Mm-hmm.
But he
And
wanted
even
to
though
go
all
through those.
Republicans are supposed to be racist white folks, they did stand 10 toes down and say, wait a minute, birthright citizenship was supposed to be for descendants of slaves. It wasn't supposed to be for migrants who sneak across the border, spread their legs, have a baby here, and now their baby's automatically an American citizen. Like, what? Where you do that?
Exactly. And that whole idea was another system for them to come and steal our land, steal our culture, and
outnumber us. Yep. Just keep on getting immigrants and keep on getting immigrants. Yep. Bring these Africans over here. Hey, most people don't know, more Africans freely immigrated to the United States in the 1980s and 1990s than the total amount of Africans trafficked during the entire transatlantic slave trade. Let that sink in. More Africans freely immigrated here in the 80s and the 90s than the millions of Africans they claim were trafficked to the Americas as slaves. And that's hold on. And that's why when they bring them over here, they get them to play us in the movies and the media because it's part of the hijack.
Exactly. And even the idea of the Black Panther, that cartoon itself was a Native American folk tale for thousands and thousands of years.
There's Panthers in South America.
They got an African. Yeah, they went and got an African to play that role.
Florida has Panthers.
I mean, come on. Right. There's only one place where the Panther is even native to. But I will also say that I'm happy that they put Michael B. Jordan in there, because Michael B. Jordan is the one who identified as
but that's why they had to pull the psyops. And even though he was totally right in everything he was saying and doing, they demonized him and made him out to be the villain and the bad guy. I mean, this is that Disney CIA programming. Come on. Hey, the Africans, the Wakandans are bringing in the white CIA guy and working with him. And again, come on now. It's a psyops. It's a psyops.
And it's crazy. So there's 2 things. There's 2 movies that always stuck with me. And then the first one is the Black Panther series. The very last one that just came out. When they said, they were like, the dude woke up and said, are we in Wakanda? They said, no, we're in Kansas. Wakanda, Kansas is the very first Wakanda to ever exist.
Yep.
And it's, to this day, they have the biggest national park named Wakanda. Wakanda is a Native American / Creole word, meaning like warrior or something. I forgot exactly what it means, but it's crazy because there's over 15 cities in the United States named Wakanda. There is 0 places in Africa called Wakanda. 0. There's not one over there called Wakanda.
Nah, I feel you.
That's not even a word over there.
Oh, wait, and hold on real quick. My lady sending me a text message. She want me to get up off of this thing here. Hey, go ahead and provide us some closing remarks, and then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more callbacks to make. We'll see how many more of these callbacks I'm able to get through tonight. But yeah, thanks for tuning in over on IG. Leave us with some closing remarks.
And the best thing that I could always tell people, man, is get the information from the books. They hide the information in the books. You can't. There's never a place where you could just go and look online, or I mean, not never, but it's very hard to find places online or places on TV or any type of media. That's why they're trying to destroy stuff like TikTok, and they're trying to get rid of stuff like, you know, certain reels and stuff, and they ban certain people and they shadow ban people. Long story short, we got to get this information to our people. We can't let McGraw-Hill have all the say so in our history, because McGraw-Hill is a Jewish-owned CIA operation
which was spearheaded by Jazine Maxwell's father, right?
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
He's the one writing our textbooks. Come on now.
Exactly. So I didn't come on here to talk everybody to death tonight, but I definitely do appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate your platform, man. I definitely got to get on there and chase my ancestry a little bit more. I did focus it down to Scotland, but even the ancient Nova Scotia is still in the Americas.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually look at the map and keep going up, talk about it. Yeah, and then there are gyres. There's two different oceanic gyres that'll take you from Northern Europe up over to Newfoundland area. So yeah, it's a lot of interesting history there. But hey, brother, it was a pleasure connecting with you. Don't hesitate to call in the future. And if you ever need assistance with genealogy research, just check out the website. I always make myself available for those genealogy consultations.
All right, will do, man. You have a good night.
You too. Peace. All right, y'all. I'm gonna do 3 more calls. Okay. I'm gonna do 3 more calls. 3 more calls. And I gotta get up out of here. Let me see. Shout out to everybody tuning in on YouTube and Instagram.
Greetings. You have reached right.
All right, let's try the next one. Let me see. We got a 916 area code. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I actually missed a call earlier from a 561 area code. Let's go ahead and give them a call back.
Please leave your message for.
All right. Next up, we got someone from the Carolinas, I believe. What? 718 area code. Where's that? Oh, that's New York. They said they got family in the Carolinas. Next to the Tar River. You know what? I guess for you folks on the East Coast, it is getting a little late, huh? It is about midnight over there. You know what? Yeah. A lot of these numbers are East Coast. Here, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and wrap up tonight's broadcast. I'm going to do another call-in show probably tomorrow, catch up with some of these previous missed calls, give you guys the opportunity to call in if it's your first time. But guys, again, make sure to check out the website, nativeblackancestry.com, if you need assistance with genealogical research. I made it, with you in mind. There's literally an archive with over 800 documents. There's a course if you want to get more in-depth knowledge, ebooks, you name it. So definitely make sure to check out the website, nativeblackancestry.com, and I will see you guys next time.
All right. Hi. So I found Mike via YouTube. I showed up in my YouTube feed and I started to engage with his content, and it was very interesting because I'd already started doing my own genealogy on Ancestry.com, and was very interested in understanding the background that was a part of the lore of my family and our indigeneity. And so ultimately I decided to book a consultation because I realized that he actually knew what he was talking about, and had built that trust. And I'm glad that I did, because not only have I learned enough to know that Mike is the person to help me push this this forward, right, and help us discover where we come from truly, but I've also learned that more about the history of Indians in this country and how we were reclassified and so forth. But it was definitely a journey of discovery. And so, if you are at all wondering if it's worth it, then I would say yes, go ahead and book the session. It will be worth your while.
Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.